Yanqing is sadly an underrated character. Though not perfect, as a DPS he can certainly shine in battle. How's it going, everyone? This is Kay, and I'll break down the strengths, weaknesses, best relics, and light cones for Yanqing. His basic attack will deal damage to a single enemy, skill will target an enemy for a multi-hit attack, and will also have Yanqing enter a Soul Steal Sync status, which synergizes with his talent. Whenever he's in the Soul Steal state, Yanqing's talent increases crit rate and damage. This can lead to some stat flexibility when building him. Additionally, there's a chance he will trigger another attack when using his basic skill or ult, and the new attack has the potential to freeze enemies. Though it's not always reliable, this can lead to stalling out enemies a bit, since freeze enemies cannot act temporarily. Now, if Yanqing gets hit either by attacks or DOT, his sync will disappear. Thankfully, his talent decreases the chance of enemies targeting him, but AoE attacks can knock him out of his Soul Steal state. As a character that heavily relies on this Soul Steal, this is a major weakness and is a large reason why he's not as consistent as other hunt characters. You'll have to constantly reapply his skill, which can be inconvenient at times, especially when skill points are low. The Soul Steal status also lasts only one turn, again forcing you to constantly reapply it. Now, shields can protect Yanqing from losing his sync status since it prevents damage. For his ultimate, it increases crit rate by a large margin, and if he's in that sync state, crit damage will also increase. This is why Yanqing can be a DPS monster, as his abilities has a singular focus of buffing his damage. Skill, talents, then ult synergizes with each other and is required to fully utilize Yanqing's high damage potential. His technique is also pretty neat, and since it's not an attack, you can apply this and use someone else to attack the enemy. It will buff his damage in the early turns, as enemies will have full health, unless your allies hit their HP below 50% before Yanqing can move. For traces, nothing too dramatic, but he has helpful abilities such as icing on the kick, which makes him more effective against ice weakness enemies. Gentle Blade will also trigger often since he'll be critting a lot. Here's a quick look at his Idolans. As a standard character, you may get extra copies. Most reliable one is E2 for ult spamming. Relics are pretty simple. Glacial Forest is practically meant for Yanqing. Boost in ice damage, and for the full set, crit damage buff when using ult. In terms of main stats, head and handpieces can't be changed, but for substats, it's the usual for DPS characters. Crit values, then attack, and some speed would be nice. For the body part, it should be crit damage main stat. He has a lot of crit rate buffs from the skill, so if you're lucky with a few substats, you can concentrate on pure damage. But if you feel like he's inconsistent in battle, then crit rate isn't bad. For the feats, attack percentage for higher damage, but you can't go wrong with speed at the cost of damage, of course. For ornaments, go with Celestial. Again, your only focus is to boost his damage output. With Yanqing, you can easily reach 120% crit damage. Sphere is simple, go with ice, but use attack temporarily if you don't have ice. Rope is either energy for ult spamming or attack for even higher damage. Now, for light cones, there are a lot you can choose from. Best one is Sleep Like the Dead. Again, you want that crit damage boost, but in this case, its other effect is that if his basic or skill does not crit rate will increase, which should lead into his ult to have a higher chance of that crit landing. Don't rely on this effect too much though. Better to build him with crit rate stats for reliability, and it does have a 3-turn delay before the effect can trigger again. In the Night is another good light cone, but don't purposely pull for this. If you have it, great. If not, there are others. This is of course meant for a speed build, so you'll have to adjust his main stats from Relics. You can get Stellar Sea from her store, so it is free to play. Buffing crit rate is always a good thing, and the extra crit rate buff against enemies with 50% HP and lower is also nice in landing those crit damage, especially in boss battles. Killing the enemy buff is nice, but it's more so for Zilla, who can perform additional turns after killing. Now, swordplay is actually really amazing on him. Yanqing's skill has multi-hit, so you'll get a lot of stacks right away. Other light cones that are decent on him, if you don't have the previously mentioned ones, are Return to Darkness, which is from the Battle Pass, Only in Silence, and River Flows. So Yanqing is one of the hardest hitting characters in Star Rail. The combination of crit rate and damage buffs from his skills makes him very easy to build. Biggest problem you'll encounter would be his constant need to use his skill. Without his Soul Steal sync, Yanqing is severely weakened. If he takes any damage, he loses it. If you don't chain his ult right after using his skill, you'll lose out on the crit damage boost. Example here is when I used his skill last turn, and as you can see, he has his sync state. Since his soul steal is for this turn, if I use basic attack and not reapply the skill and use his ult after, then Yanqing loses out on the buff. Now there is a neat little trick you can use to get around this problem, and that is to use his ultimate immediately right after his basic attack. So very simple. Unlike the previous example where I waited till it was Welt's turn and then I triggered his ult, don't wait till the next character's turn. Immediately cut in front of them after his basic, and this will help your team in several ways. First of all, you're not consuming a skill point to reapply his soul steal sync status through his skill. Instead, you're using a basic attack to gain a skill point, and not only that, by using his ult immediately, it will extend the sync status, allowing you to gain that crit damage boost. Or to make things even easier, while he has the soul sync status, just use his ult and then a basic attack. He'll still have the status and you'll generate some energy to recharge his ult, so do whatever you want. The constant sync and skill management can affect your other party members who may need the skill points. At times you'll find yourself needing to sacrifice either his damage or other party members' skills. In terms of teams, it's best to have a shielder since it can protect Yanqing from taking damage, which in turn protects his sync status. Team position is also very important. Make sure you have your taunt character and Yanqing on opposite sides. Enemies can deal adjacent damage, and if Yanqing is right next to the taunting ally, then he'll get hit too. Also, having buffers like Bronya and Tingyun on your team can help Yanqing deal a lot more damage. So in the end, Yanqing is amazing because of the high damage output he can perform. Freezing enemies has its advantages, and he's amazing for boss battles, especially if they have ice weakness. His lack of AoE makes fighting multiple enemies a bit slower, as he doesn't have extra turns like Zila. Despite his constant need for his sync state making him hungry for skill points, he is a phenomenal damage dealer. Well, there you have it, folks. Yanqing is a beast. Let me know if you have him. Also, comment down below to let me know who you're choosing for your 5-star standard character on your 300th pull. For myself, I'm going for Bronya, but if I get lucky and get her early, then I'm going for Japard. But if I get both of them, then Himiko. She is one of my most wanted, best waifu, that's all I'm going to say. Well, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for future Honkai Star Rail videos. Till next time, everyone, good luck on your pulls.